Now that Krakoa is no more, mutant kind will be forced to once again reintegrate with human society, and at the forefront of this massive seismic change is Kamala Khan. What'll happen next? Well, let's hop into the pages of NYX issue number 1 and find out what happens next together, shall we? So then, as we join the book, we get treated to Miss Marvel's internal monologue talking about her relationship to New York City. She says in her heart of hearts she'll always be a Jersey girl, but that try as you might, it's hard not to be taken in by the glitz and glamour of New York City. It's always there, always shining in the distance. A place where Kamala, and indeed much of mutant kind, feels themselves being drawn to right now, a place where they might very well end up meeting their destinies. Now, if you read those Amon Villani Miss Marvel books, you'll be happy to know that Colin Kelly actually does a really good job building on the events of those stories here in this new one. Kamala is still making the commute from Jersey City to the ESU campus, where she's now enrolled herself into an after-school program. Again, this is a smart way to get Kamala involved in college stories without having to actually age her up and send her off to college officially. It's also a pretty smart way to deal with her brand new dual mutant heritage, what with all of her brand new X-Men friends basically being stand-ins for the friends you make in college. Kamala has also dropped her newer X-Men suit and instead opted to go back to her classic Miss Marvel suit, and honestly, more power to her. In short order, we learn that Bruno, Kamala's best friend and love interest, is actually studying abroad right now, meaning that the role of new best friend will actually be played by SOPHIE CUCKOO of the Stepford Cuckoos, who's also attending ESU right now. These two characters end up hitting it off right away. Sophie is just happy to not be the only mutant on campus right now. She also kind of pokes fun at Kamala's codename. You know, Miss Marvel might have made sense when you were just an Inhuman Captain Marvel fan, but now if you're gonna keep hanging out with the X-Men, it just looks like you're a big Jean Grey stan or something. Now, what is this big, important, mutant-based after-school program that these two are interested right now? Well, apparently it's a class on the whole dysphoria of Krakoa. One who just so happens to be taught by Prodigy, the youngest professor in the university's entire history, though some people wonder if he was given this job more out of pity for the mutants' current lot in life and also to try and make the university feel better, what with not so long ago them having been fully infiltrated by Orchis and Omega Sentinel. Sophia and Prodigy, of course, have history going all the way back to their own time at the Xavier School, and the Cuckoo doesn't exactly like the idea of how Prodigy is teaching the history of Krakoa, basically treating it like it's already dead, and that integrating their culture, their religion, and even their language into the rest of society is going to be this huge impossible task. And hey, speaking of tasks too, Sophie actually manages to get it out of Kamala that she hasn't come out to her parents as a mutant yet, what with Emma Frost actually working her mind mojo to make Ami and Abu forget that she had actually died and been resurrected in the first place. Also, while Sophie is totally cool speaking frankly about being a mutant and everything, Kamala still has to keep it hidden right now as she's still doing the whole secret identity thing. Though she is gonna keep hanging out with her cool new mutant friend, one way or another she might actually be forced to cross that bridge when she gets to it. As it stands right now though, Sophie just wants to have some fun and blow off some steam and invites Kamala along with her to go clubbing, something that Miss Marvel wouldn't normally do, what with the whole being underage and not drinking thing. But when you're hanging out with one of the Cuckoos, you basically have yourself a walking, talking fake ID that can open any door for you. This also serves as a nice opportunity to see how some of the other mutants are getting along, like ANOLE, who, after being the bartender of the Green Lagoon, has now become one of New York nightlife's hottest bartenders. It's not a bad gig, unfortunately, though prejudice ends up rearing its ugly head once again in the form of a brand new anti-mutant hate group calling themselves the Truth Seekers. These guys are a bunch of violent conspiracy theorists who stream themselves harassing mutants, believing them to be the cause of several new terrorist attacks that have taken place in the city over the last several weeks and months after the fall of Krakoa. One of them attacks ANOLE with a knife, meaning that Miss Marvel has to get involved. In a fun use of her powers, Miss Marvel ends up treating her face like clay, creating a mask so she doesn't have to fear getting recorded by the club security cameras. Kamala and Sophie manage to save ANOLE, but end up getting kicked out of the club for all their trouble. Apparently, the bouncer is something of an anti-mutant individual himself and can considering that those guys got a weapon past security, there's a good chance he might be in on it too. If nothing else though, Miss Marvel managed to steal one of the Truth Seeker's phones, and she figures that there has to be way more going on involving all of these so-called mutant terrorist attacks, and as such, this looks like a job for Miss Marvel. Kamala actually places a call to Professor Prodigy in hopes he can use his big brain to help her jailbreak the phone. Of course, Prodigy wants nothing to do with any of these problems right now and not rock the boat. Of course, not that any of that matters, because Kamala ends up losing the phone quite quickly as she swings directly into the oncoming path of Laura Kinney Wolverine. A pretty fitting addition to this book when we stop and consider that Laura was actually the star of the original NYX back in the day. Wolverine very firmly tells Miss Marvel to drop everything she's doing right now, that she's prodding in a much bigger conspiracy than she could ever possibly imagine, and that this is all going to get very, very dangerous. Of course, Laura doesn't know Kamala that well at all, and once Kamala has her mind set to something, she doesn't drop it very easily, especially when it comes to helping people in need. Ms. Marvel might not have been able to use the stolen phone to find the Truth Seeker's meeting place, but she ends up stumbling upon probably the next best thing. And that is the actual source of these brand new mutant terrorist attacks, a masked individual with psychic powers going by the name The Krakoan. Well shit, I guess an evil mutant was actually at the center of all of this, huh? Ms. Marvel tries to stop the Krakoan from destroying a bunch of trains and hurting a bunch of passengers, only to get browbeaten by this mystery man saying that Kamala is a traitor to her own kind, that she was reborn during the fall, and that she never knew Krakoa during its golden age, and as such she could never understand what the Krakoan is actively trying to accomplish here. And that the more Miss Marvel tries to protect humanity, the more she is just a traitor to her mutant blood. The Krakoan runs off, meaning Miss Marvel is just narrowly able to save the train and its passengers. Unfortunately, it's only then a bunch of Truth Seekers show up and put her on one of their streams. So yeah, all in all, tonight's kind of been a wash. You win some, you lose some. Kamala meets back up with Sophie again and fills her in on everything that's happened. Miss Marvel may have made some new enemies today, but at the very least she's made a new friend, and Sophie says she has a couch in the city in case Kamala ever wants to crash there and maybe do some superhero work. This is of course a big deal for Kamala because she's not used to having such a powerful, well-connected, elegant friend so close to her own age before. Don't worry though, she's not getting a swelled head. In fact, Colin Kelly goes out of his way to also make time to show us what her brother Amir is up to right now. Apparently he started a brand new career in the soul-crushing realm of data entry. He also fears for his sister's safety, what with all of the traveling back and forth between Jersey and New York, when it looks like brand new mutant acts of terror are happening every day now. But who is this mysterious Krakoan? What do they want and what are they after? Well, from there we transition on over to the Krakoan going back to his master, a man who speaks of building a brand new island nation, one ruled by a new, darker, quiet council. That man is actually revealed to be none other than Empath, but he's not alone either, as he is actually flanked by Sophie's sisters, the other Stepford Cuckoos, and as far as the Krakoan goes, well, he's actually just Hellion, which actually makes all the sense in the world given his own connection to Prodigy and Anole and Emma Frost. Quite the group we have here as the comic comes to an end. And so that was NYX issue number 1, everybody, and I gotta say, I was really pleasantly surprised by this one. I ended up enjoying it way more than I thought I would, and I knew I was gonna like it. I'm a big Miss Marvel fan. And while I very much hate the long and stupid road it took to eventually making her a mutant, I'd be lying if I say she doesn't actually end up fitting in really well with the team. Kelly's actually done a really good job growing and evolving everything we saw in those last 2 Kamala Miss Marvel series, while also retaining a lot of the original charm of the G. Willow Wilson years. I like that we kind of have this ticking clock, will we, won't we, with Kamala actually revealing herself to her family as a mutant, and in doing so actually undoing what Emma Frost did for her. I like that this book is really dealing with the fallout of Krakoa and how all of the different mutants are dealing with it and how some of them are just coping and just getting by. I think Kamala and Sophie actually have a very fun dynamic. They're so diametrically opposed and yet they end up getting along. Hell, I love Empath as a villain. In that Hellion's book, it actually seemed like he had turned over a new leaf and was trying to be good again, but now that Krakoa is no more, he's falling back on bad habits. Also, I dig that this book is about the city and a bunch of different characters and how their lives intersect with each other instead of just being a straight-up team book. It's an interesting spin on an X-Men title. Overall, I'd give this one an 8.5 out of 10. Hey there everyone, it's your old pal Cape Joel again, thanking you so much for watching to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, why not check out my Amazon link down in the description. Yes, that's right, the Cape Joel channel officially has its own Amazon storefront now. You can pick up a comic or anything else for that matter, and if you did, you'd really be helping me in the channel. So with that out of the way everyone, I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.